In this exercise, we'll be learning about graphics and animation. I've got a completed version of the file here, and I'll just run it for you quickly to talk about what we're going to create during today's exercise. Let me just hit preview and we'll start it. You can see I've got a little character up here, and it does have gravity, and it will fall, and you can see that there's some animation when it's falling, and it has a bit of a bounce to it. And then it settles in to this view. Now I've got some fans that are slowly rotating up here. I've got a coin that's rotating over here, and I've got platforms that our little character can move about. So I've got some movement attached to the character on the keyboard using left and right arrow keys. So left key moves it left, and right moves it right. And when I stop, it just assumes this static position. If I go over to the coin, I can basically pick it up. In other words, when I collide with it, it does disappear. And then if I walk to the left, it will fall down to the next step, and so on. Now, I don't have any jumping abilities in this particular exercise. We'll get onto that in another exercise. But you can see here that it does animate. I do have some things that are on a looped animation, if you will, and I've got some walls, a staircase, and a wooden floor here. So let's stop this now, and we'll start a new file. So I'll just go up to File, New, and I'll just call it Graphics and Animation 2. And I'll make sure the platform is iPad Landscape, and I will check off Resolution Independence so that it will conform to the various devices. Now let's actually save our file. And I've got a folder here for all of my GameSolid work, and I'll just call this again Graphics and Animation 2. And we'll get started here. I'm just going to resize the screen to fit right here. Okay, and we'll go over to our first scene, our only scene, and I'll start to add some of my images. I'll go to Images. Now I could go to the plus sign and bring them in there. And I do have a folder in my Assets folder called GameSolid Bricks and More. And I could go in here with my Command key down and select more than one object. And I'll do that. And I'll also go back again. I want to see if I just select, no, if I select the folder, it will open it up. So I'll just select everything inside that folder. And we'll do one more here, the player. Okay, so I should have all my assets in here now. And you can always resize this if you want to be able to read the individual names. If you make these icons bigger, ultimately you can see the full name. I'm going to make them small again so that I can see more of them at a time. Now these three may look the same, but they are different, and I'll show you what the difference is momentarily. Let me just save my file. Okay, so as I was saying, they are subtly different. Basically, it's the white line that goes around them, or lack of white line. So I think the best way to do this is I already have a file open here. Here's the brick end, and you'll notice on the left hand side that there is no white stroke. So this is meant to go on the right hand side of the end of a line of bricks. And if I go out to, let's see here, the other graphics, brick floor, has no white line on either side, so that when this tiles, in other words, when it's part of a pattern, when you put two of these together, it will look like staggered bricks. And then finally, brick wall is completely surrounded by the white key line, and that's meant for the verticals, the left and right walls. So this one's meant for the left and right wall. This one's meant for large areas of brick pattern, and this one's meant for either end of the brick. Now I only made one end of these because inside of GameSolid I can always flip my image and make better use of the memory by using the one common graphic for two different graphics. So let's just go back to GameSolid now, and we'll start to set those up. So I'll start with the floor segment. I'll drag brick floor into the inspector here under actors. And by dragging that in again, it automatically creates an actor out of that graphic. I'm going to set a couple of things up in its attributes here. Number one, I'll go to physics and I'll turn off the movable. And I'll say fixed rotation, so it can't rotate. So it's going to be fixed wherever I put it, in other words. And under graphics, I want this to be able to repeat itself vertically and horizontally as a pattern. So I'm going to go horizontal wrap tile and vertical wrap tile. So let's go back here now. If I drag brick floor into the scene, if I stretch it one way or the other, you can see that that brick pattern repeats itself. And it doesn't matter how big, it's going to constantly fill in the space with that tiled pattern, which is pretty cool. So let's just, let me just delete that for a second and bring it back in. And I'm just going to put sort of one layer at the bottom, if you will. I'll just stretch it to the left and to the right. And that's basically going to be the floor. And I guess we can put in some walls. And then I'll put in the little staircase and so on. So I've got another piece here called brick wall. We'll work with that next. We'll drag that into our inspector. So let's just go into the brick wall here and make some settings as well. In our physics, we'll remove the movable feature. And under graphics, we'll set the tiling, horizontal wrap. I'll tile both directions. And we'll drag that out and we'll bring it to the left and to the right. Even though I'm just going to keep it at that width, just drag it all the way up. And I can hold my Option key down on the Mac, Alt key down on the PC to duplicate that. And just take that duplicated version and bring it over here. And if I click away, I can sort of see what it looks like here. I can use my arrow keys to nudge as well. As you can see there. Okay. Let's just save our file here. And I guess I'll build that little staircase that we saw. And that way we'll deal with the end bricks as well. I'll start with the brick floor. I'm just going to highlight that and nudge it. There we go. So that it looks like it's sitting on top of those other bricks. Now I want to make that exactly 3 bricks wide. And I know there's 64 pixels in width. So I just need to multiply that times 3. Which happens to be 192. So I can double click on that and go over to the size, and under width I can double click on that width and just type in 192 as the new number, and it stretches exactly 3 bricks wide, as you can see here on the bottom. Now I'm going to put an end piece over here and an end piece over here, and let me show you how we deal with that. So I've got one brick end already created, intended to go on the right hand side, but we'll turn that into an actor and I'll rename that. I'll go brick and right. Let me just spell that correctly there. Okay, brick and right, and I'll just go into that as well, and we'll turn off the physics for the movability, so we'll make it not movable, and we'll drag that out to the right hand side, and I may need to nudge that a bit. So with it highlighted, can nudge that, and you see how it fits perfectly, and it closes it off nicely with the white line on the edge. So we want to do the same thing on the other side. Here's the thing, I don't have a pre-made graphic with a white line on that side, but since it's a mirror image of this, we can actually flip it as a new actor. So I'll duplicate this, hold my Option key down inside of the inspector, duplicate it, rename it brick and left, and then go inside, double click it, go inside it, graphics, and if I scroll down here I have a flip horizontal. I'll just click on that. I'll double check on the physics, but since I duplicated it, it should still be unmovable, and it is. So again, the big thing was to go to the flip horizontal, and that just mirrors the graphic. So now I should be able to drag this out, and you can see here that it's the mirror image and the white line is on the left, so I just need to carefully position that. and nudge that with my arrow keys. And I can get fussy on it here, but let's just go one more here. Okay. There we go. Let's say we like that, and we'll save the file. I could take pieces and duplicate them, or I can drag them out of my inspector here. So I'll start with the brick floor. Actually, I'll start with the brick and right, and we'll just line that up here. I'll just nudge that up a pixel or two. There we go. And this time we'll take the brick floor, but I'll just keep it at its default size, 64 pixels, which should fit in here once aligned. Okay, and now I'll take the brick and left and just tweak that as well. Okay, for the top step, I'm just going to use the brick wall because it does have the white outline on all sides, and I'll just carefully drop that in there and nudge that up with my arrow keys. Good, there we go. Let's just save our file. Now, unfortunately, I can't drag across multiple objects. It's a bit of a limitation in Game Salad, so if I wanted to move everything over, I'd have to do them one element at a time. So you know what, for the sake of the exercise, I'm just going to leave it as is, and we'll move on to our plank. So I'll just drag the plank up into the inspector to create the new actor, and I'll double click it to set some of its attributes. Under graphics, I just want to tile it horizontally. So horizontal wrap tile. Vertical wrap, we'll just say fixed. And let's go out and see what that does. Let's just drag planks in here. And if I was to put it over here, you can see here that when I drag it up and down, it doesn't repeat. But I do want to just have it so that that edge is lined up there. However, when I drag it left to right, it does. If I bring it out here, you'll really see it. So the idea, again, with the fixed on the vertical and the tiling on the horizontal is that this was designed to be tiled horizontally. And again, I just need to resize that to fit. Now let's say, for example, it was like this. This bounding box would be the hit zone, if you will, on a collision. So if something was to come, it would collide with this invisible line. So let's line that up with the actual visual of the graphic so that when something lands on it, that does become the top. Okay, you could go in and double click it and make sure by setting it to 64 pixels high. Let's just go up to size here. '64, and if I go back, there you go. Okay, so we've got that in place too. Now, one important thing I still need to do on this, so I might as well double click that now, is under my physics, I do want to make it not movable. So uncheck the movable box. Okay, we should be good now on the plank. It's not movable and it's been sized and tiled according to our needs.